So, Minister, SGTech and the whole industry is actually very aligned, right? We see a big future, bright future for ourselves. So, actually, on that note, what do you think, and how do you think SGTech can partner closer with MCI and do much more to progress and advance the tech industry?
Well, I would say that there are several areas I think are very meaningful. I think in the first place, our whole attitude towards technology developments, particularly things that are just emerging, is to have a very curious mind and also to be constantly in touch with the industry to develop that sense of which are the things that will blossom, that will actually have a lot of commercial applications, and therefore we ought to be finding ways to promote. And I would then unpack, our areas of interventions into a few. One is that you always want to ask the question, is our infrastructure going to be able to support it? So if you take the metaverse as an example, I think even in your forum, you're going to talk about it, or at other occasions, this is being discussed. Now, is this going to materialize overnight? Yeah, answer is not quite. Even Mark Zuckerberg himself thinks that it'll take another 5 to 10 years. Even though the foundational technologies, the VR and the AR are already available, but one can imagine that if the metaverse were to become, as described, very pervasive, then the amount of data that will need to be transmitted, managed, is going to be vastly more than what it is today. And then the demands on compute power is also going to be enormous. And in order to do that, you'll need a robust 5G infrastructure, which is what we have done. But one can also imagine every time you have, matured in any particular technology, then the new one comes along. So whilst we are trying to promote the use of 5G, develop more use cases, we are already invested in thinking about the 6G, what standards will be set, and then as a complement, what about Open RAN? How can this, really strengthen our infrastructural resilience, promote greater connectivity, and also, help companies to avoid vendor capture, so stuff like that. So that's one area. In terms of infrastructure developments, where are the things that the industry sees an opportunity and would like Singapore to pay closer attention to? I think the other area that is very well worth our, also attention is in R&D. In Singapore, we have a program, we call it the Research, Innovation and Enterprise 2025 plan. And under this plan, $25 billion have been set aside. Part of this will go towards smart nation, digital economy types of R&D. And in fact, just earlier today, I was in discussion with a group of companies who are deeply invested in AI R&D in Singapore, really trying to understand, which are the capabilities that they think Singapore could develop some niche capabilities, niche strength in, and become outstanding. So that's another area which I think the collaboration could be very fruitful. Yet another area I would think about is that now, with all new developments, at some point, the question of regulations will surface. When you see conditions that are concerning, and you need to step in, then what is the right way of thinking about framing the regulations? When would we have overreached, and when we wouldn't have done enough? Those are, again, very meaningful conversations to have. I'm just reminded by the fact that, say for example, in Singapore since 2012, we've had a data protection law. That's not something that every country has. We've had it. But in 2020, we already got feedback that, with the whole concern about privacy, government can also step in to make clear what are the instances where the use of data is permissible and what safeguards need to be put in place. So we amended our law to make clear which are the use cases that are supportable and what conditions must be put in place by businesses in order to use that kind of data, personal data. I think those are the things that are always going to be, you know, important for us to get the industry feedback on. And if we want to stay ahead of the competition, we should pay attention to them. The other things that I would say would be in terms of enterprise and industry capabilities development, as well as in workforce skills development. Those are the areas that your participation in terms of curating the programs, whether they are funding support programs or skills programs, I think we will find them very useful.
Thanks, Minister. Actually, we are doing quite a lot of that. But
Indeed.
you have given very interesting insights into a few areas that got me
You are
thinking.
our great partners.
Thank you very much. And we would like to thank your support too, you know, through my more than 10 years in SGTech Council doing various roles, I really felt the government is actually getting closer and closer to the private sector. And somehow this whole COVID situation, not to say it's a good thing, has gotten the private sector and public sector much closer together.
Yes, I think we see each other as strong collaborators in addressing the issues, you know, of the day, and also very much in shaping the future. And in digital, the more we are able to collaborate, the more we are able to, you know, crowdsource ideas. I think the more we are able to strengthen our position.
I really think this is going to be a unique advantage for Singapore. If somehow the intimacy between public-private can surpass all other economies, then that gives us a competitive advantage.
Let's go for it.
Because none of us can solve all the problems ourselves, right?
Yes,
I think together we can tackle much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.